next 60 minutes will bring you face to face with a human crisis that has been hidden too long.
Blanket? Does anybody have a blanket?
Hey, where's the mother?
At home, this kid would be in an oxygen tent.
Children who get measles and are malnourished, they die.
Crisis in the Horn of Africa, presented by World Vision. With hosts Stan Mooneyham and Carol Lawrence. And with special guests Dale Evans, Dean Jones, and Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
It's called the Crescent of Crisis, an area that has placed the entire world on alert. To the north, Russia. To the west, Israel and the Arab nations. To the south, the vast resources of Africa. Here the superpowers battle for their own spheres of influence, with oil being the prize. At the southern tip of the crescent is the Horn of Africa. The two principal countries that make up the Horn are Somalia and Ethiopia. Ethiopia is an ancient land. The Old Testament records the Queen of Sheba traveling all the way from Ethiopia to visit King Solomon. Ethiopia has a Christian tradition. Somalia is Muslim, but this is not a religious war. This conflict is over this sprawling, barren piece of wasteland known as the Ogaden Desert. And here is the grass that gets crushed, the simple people. And this is why we come to you tonight, to help you hear the voices of those who are not being heard. They are the forgotten of our world. And I invite you, during this next hour, to listen to them. Welcome to this very important hour. I had the privilege of surveying the many crisis points in the Horn of Africa with tonight's special guest, a woman of great talent and compassion. May I introduce Miss Carol Lawrence.
Thank you, Stan.
Time has run out. There's no more time left for the child in Somalia, the infant in Ethiopia, the newborn baby in Uganda. But you can turn the hourglass around. With your dollars and your prayers and your assistance, you can turn the hourglass around so that others in similar circumstances will have the gift of hope. In the time it takes you to pick up a phone and call, lives are at stake. Don't let them go. It's all a matter of time.
As long as I live, I don't think I'll ever be able to forget Noria and the terrible choice she had to make as to which of her sons would live or die. I know that my sons are only 15 months apart and were constantly taken for twins. I only thank God that I never had to face the agonizing choice Noria did. But right now, you have a choice to make too. To help or to turn aside. To say yes or no. Make the right choice. Please call now.
They were gathering for one reason. They were desperate for food. Where's the mother? Is this the mother? How old is the baby? Does she know when the baby was born? What would you say, a few months old, maybe a year old?
3 years old.
3 years?
3 years old.
3 years old?
3 years old.
That baby doesn't weigh 8 pounds, 6 pounds, 7 pounds. But that little leg, just look at that. Oh, I can't believe that. Oh, dear little guy. In the whole country, there are 5 million people affected by drought and severe hunger. Again, months ago, we budgeted $35,000 for specific relief projects in Ethiopia. But what I saw during those days changed our plans. You can't stand there and see so much need without doing something. So we've just decided on a series of emergency programs in Ethiopia that are going to cost over $3 million this year. We've got a staff of over 100 people working in cooperation with the government and through the churches in a coordinated, life-saving effort. As an immediate measure, we've sent grain, cooking oil, powdered milk, clothing, blankets, and medical supplies. If ever a people needed a faithful, consistently compassionate response, it is these beautiful, determined people of Bume. Your monthly gift of $14 or even more over this next year is needed now.
There have been a lot of water in there.
I believe Amila spoke for the hungry, the dispossessed, everywhere. As uncomfortable as I was, I couldn't turn away. I had to hear her and try to respond.
There's no butter around this area. There is no milk or dried skim milk around this area. Every morning we wake up, we don't eat any breakfast, and we walk with empty stomach up to this relief center, and we don't get anything. And when we saw the plane coming this morning, we thought that there were some relief items. Unfortunately, there was nothing. We only saw you.
I'm very touched by what she tells me.
It's
okay, no, let her speak. She speaks the truth, and I need to hear the truth, and the world needs to hear the truth. We will not forget. I tried to tell Amila that we would be sending food, but she was skeptical. She'd heard empty promises before.
The only thing is, I don't want you to forget what you told us. I want you to prove it in action as soon as you reach Arba Minch or as soon as you reach Addis Ababa.
And I promise in the name of God that as quickly as we can get a plane here with food, there will be food here. I saw her standing over to the side of the crowd, then coming to get a portion of maize for her family. Later, she made a special point to thank me in the traditional Bume fashion. Amila and I had come full circle. She had placed her trust in the word of a stranger. And because of the faithfulness of God and people like you, I was able to honor her trust.
The stories you are about to see are true. They are the very personal stories of 6 courageous women. Each will speak for millions of others in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Women who live in a world where love and hope and laughter must try to survive untold hardship, disease, even death. These 6 women will speak for the forgotten half of a suffering world. Women in Crisis. Presented by World Vision, with special guests Steve Allen and Mary Ann Mobley, and hosts Gary Collins and Carol Lawrence.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, Carol and I come to you on an urgent mission. For the next 60 minutes, we want you to stop and take time to see the hopes and heartbreaks of a forgotten portion of the human family. They are called women, millions of women, who right now have been sentenced to a lifetime of abuse, exhaustion, and hunger. We believe this hour is a crisis hour, an hour for your family to become part of a crusade of hope.
Together, we're going to be able to touch the lives of women in over 80 countries through the work of World Vision. For over 30 years, World Vision has provided a way for us to give a compassionate Christian response to a very needy world.
Of the oppressed in our world, she is the most oppressed. She is poverty's woman, and she needs us. She represents almost half the world's population, works 2/3 of the world's working hours, and receives 1/10 of the world's income. She is the world's invisible workforce, planting and cultivating, harvesting by hand, pounding by the hour. She is the world's universal water carrier, and in many countries, the common beast of burden. In 1/4 to 1/2 of the developing countries, she is the sole provider for her family. Washing clothes, building a home, making tortillas, breaking bricks, sweeping streets. Of all the world's women and children, she represents the 75% who are malnourished. She will probably be anemic during pregnancy, bear malnourished children, and see one or more of her children die. At 35, she will look more like 55. Compared to a man, she is the one more likely to be poor, hungry, sick, illiterate, mistreated. She has little time for rest, little time for reflection, no time for herself. She will exchange her life for the future of her children, and do it with a dignity born out of sorrow and a courage born out of adversity.
Mire, my sons. As mothers, some of us can understand the fear that Lobocan is feeling now, just before the baby comes.
In 10 short years, Agatha's daughter, Adaluz, will probably marry too young, without an education. She'll have children who will also be malnourished. There's no way we can take away all the loneliness in this world, not even Vilma's loneliness. But together we can help take away some of the hopelessness. For Vilma's sake, let's begin right now.
There are women in Africa who have never seen a phonograph record or a radio. They're too busy trying to stay alive, trying to extend life for one more day for their children.
Wrapping up the forecast, let's take a quick look at the weather map once more and see just what kind of day it will be for you tomorrow. Looks like the weather will be nice. Nice enough for a wedding. An outdoor wedding. But if your wedding is in Bangladesh, and if you're the bride, there's a good chance that you're not even 13. And there's an even better chance you'll be living in the slums with many other people in too few rooms.
The president of World Vision, Dr. Ted Engstrom.
Thank you, Gary. I'm glad I can have this brief moment to share what I believe to be the real heartbeat of World Vision. It was during the suffering of the Korean War that World Vision was born in the heart of an evangelist, Dr. Bob Pierce. He had one purpose in mind: to make the redemptive love of Jesus Christ known to every person he met. Today, 30 years later, the focus of World Vision remains unchanged. We are committed, because Jesus was committed, to a ministry of helping set men and women free. Free to know the joy of forgiveness and peace in Christ, as well as freedom from the bondage of physical suffering.
Nearly 75% of the illiterate people in the world are women. Together with children, women constitute 75% of the world's undernourished. During pregnancy and childbirth, more than half the world's women have no trained medical help. In developing countries, 2/3 of all pregnant women are anemic. Women are the forgotten half of a suffering world. Remember them. Call now.
The news reports have prepared you for the subject of this hour. Across our world, war, terrorism, revolution are spreading like fires out of control. In the next 60 minutes, you will walk through the destruction, the chaos, the fear, and discover the real story. Children caught in the crossfire. Presented by World Vision, with special guests Joanne Flug, Betty White, and Anson Williams. And now, your hosts, Gary Collins and Marianne Mobley.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us in this important program. Just a few months ago, my wife Marianne and I were invited by World Vision to visit children in war-torn areas of Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central America. Bring the bag.
At the World Vision Hospital in Kampuchea, every ward is filled to capacity. Every room is an emergency room. Every hour is an hour of crisis for some child. For Dr. Marv Rayleigh, Nurse Ruth Livingston, and the very capable Khmer staff, every second is crucial.
Whenever we have a child like this whose seizure is so hard to break, I mean, he's not only been convulsing all morning before he got to the hospital, but he was convulsing during the night too. You really have to wonder about very life-threatening brain infection.
Now, as a child care partner, you'll receive a picture folder giving the complete background of a child you'll be helping. You'll receive regular updates on the progress of the child and just what your gifts are accomplishing around the world. You'll also be a part of Operation Child Care, World Vision's determined commitment to help 7 million children during the next 12 months.
I work for World Vision because I think they minister to the greatest need. I have a tremendous responsibility to share all that I've been given with those who don't have very much. When you pick up that phone, you are able to communicate at long distance your love for these children. They need physical care, such as in this hospital. They also need to know that they are not the outcasts of the world. And by expressing your love, you're really expressing God's love to these children.
Most of the people in El Salvador are poor farmers who, for some 100 years, have been the virtual slaves of a small minority of wealthy landowners. This history of oppression is at the root of El Salvador's civil war. One of the most bloody in Central America's history. It is estimated that some 35,000 people have been killed, the vast majority civilians. 300,000 have been displaced within the country itself. Thousands upon thousands of these are children, separated from parents, bewildered, afraid. The conflict has forced the government to begin efforts to distribute land to the poor. But the wealthy and powerful who own the land still continue to block needed reforms. The reports of wholesale murder by death squads increase. Entire villages have been destroyed by the fighting. And the children look on. Children caught in the crossfire. Witnesses to scenes that no human being should ever have to look upon. They are children, in a sense, our children, and we must hear their cry. Call now.
If you love children, if you love life, if you believe in hope, stay right here.
I hate to hold this child because I'm afraid it's going to pass away in my hands. What do you do? What's the solution for this kind of thing?
Children Between Life and Death. Presented by World Vision. With special guests Dean Jones, Dick Van Patten, William Shatner, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., with hosts Carol Lawrence and Art Linkletter.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this hour about children. I want to tell you a secret about myself. Whenever I see children, especially children suffering, something happens inside me. Something begins to melt, and sometimes it's pretty hard to keep back the tears. I know that many of you are going to have those same feelings during this hour. But I want you to know that those feelings can result in something beautiful, hopeful, even life-changing.
This little boy is less than normal birth weight at 2 years of age and is surviving exclusively on mother's milk, unable to take more than mother's milk, and The mother's breasts have now virtually dried up.
Before leaving Zwe-Hamosit, Dr. Tony Atkins made a commitment to the people. He said we would return with grain, with a mobile medical team, with a plan to repair a road and provide an adequate water supply. He said we would return with hope. Your call is the key to that hope. For a mother like Miriam, for some child of Zwe-Hamosit, call right now.
The lives, the futures of so many of those children are in our hands. Right now, go to your phone and say, yes, I want to give $16 a month to help save the life of a child. The Famine Alert Project in Ethiopia is just a part of World Vision's all-out effort to help save the lives and futures of over 7 million children around the world during the next 12 months. Your call is vitally needed. When you call, you'll become a child care partner, helping to provide a child with emergency food, medical care, shelter, education, and Christian hope. In a matter of days, you'll receive this picture folder with interesting insights into the country, the family, and the needs of a child that you'll be helping. You'll also receive regular reports and be able to sit down and read about the child's progress. You'll know your helping makes a real difference.
But as miserable and emotionally draining as this experience has been, I'm glad I came, because it's opened my eyes to a desperate dilemma that I never knew existed. And because of it, I'm not at all ashamed to ask you to go to your phone right now. Call and say that you want to help these people who are suffering so much.
This is a problem that I hate to expose, but I have no choice but come to the midst of them and cry with them, bleed with them, weep with them, and ache with them. The dignity of these people is great. These are not beggars. These are the people that are affected by the natural cause. They are the victims.
The plea of a man whose heart is broken for his people is a plea for our response. We have no choice but to come into the midst of them, to cry with them and bring them hope. You can be part of the solution. Please call right now.
The following 60 minutes can be your personal adventure of caring and hope. With Gary Collins and Marianne Mobley visiting Ethiopia and Cambodia with special guests Susan Howard, Leslie Uggams, and Dennis Weaver. Tonight, World Vision presents Children Running Out of Time. And now, Gary Collins and Marianne Mobley.
Welcome to this hour about children. We're aboard a World Vision relief plane. We're flying toward the Gondar region of Ethiopia. Clear on the left side. Don Craig, our MAF pilot, told me we're carrying a little over 2 tons of grain, food supplements, and medical supplies.
Well, we're presently flying to Zwe-Hamosit, 46 miles from Gondar. There's 2,000 people living in the camp, another 38,000 in the area that we're dropping grain to. You can see how the ground has been scorched.
Every minute counts. Every flight means lives saved. But what I saw next, I just wasn't prepared for. Just a few yards from the airstrip, a World Vision medical team had set up this clinic and feeding center. Hundreds come here every morning needing help. They need help for severe malnutrition, malaria, parasites, tuberculosis, pneumonia. The list goes on and on. Many of them have walked up to 4 days without food, carrying children on their backs. But I do know this. There wouldn't be a chance in the world for Fontana or any of the other children here if it weren't for that airplane and its precious cargo and you. Right now, hundreds are still arriving at this outpost of survival. They come hungry, weary, heartsick, many dying. Their only hope is your compassion, your willingness to walk with them in their suffering and simply say, I care. And for a baby like Fontai, those words can mean life itself. Call right now. Right now, all over the world, World Vision is helping save the lives and futures of children. We want to say yes to everyone who comes to us, but our resources are stretched to the absolute limit. If these life-saving efforts are going to continue, we must reach out to these children now. That's the reason for this program. It will be shown across the nation, and our goal within the next 50 minutes is to touch the lives of 750,000 children. It will take $4 million, and it can be done if you and hundreds like you will call right now. When you call to help this effort, you'll become a child care partner, helping provide some child with things like emergency food, medical care, shelter, education, and Christian hope. In a matter of days, you'll receive this picture folder with interesting facts about the country and way of life of a child like you'll be helping in Africa, Asia, or Latin America.
And that is why I hold the work of World Vision International in such high regard. They believe in responding to the total needs of the whole human person.
I'm glad that over the years, our 700 Club audience has had an opportunity to reach out to a hungry world through World Vision.
It has been my privilege to be involved in the ministry of World Vision since its founding 33 years ago.
The problems of poverty and despair are not just big city problems, they're world problems. And I'm so thankful that there are organizations like World Vision which not only open our eyes to a needy world, but give us a chance to share a little of what we have with those who have absolutely nothing.
You know, they used to say that time heals things, but that ain't really true. Time can kill things too, like little babies whose time is running out. And that's why I do this, to slow up time just a little bit, give them a chance. Now, you don't have to go out and break your neck trying to help. Just do what you can, that's all. And you may never see the kids that you're helping, but believe me, there's no greater satisfaction on the face of the earth. No, sir.
The actual flying itself is only part of the ministry for me. Having answered a call of the Lord on my life to be here, that's really what sustains me when the going gets tough. And I'm not here for my own comfort. I'm not here for the money. I'm here to serve the Lord, and I'm here to help these people.
I'm here because I know this is exactly where God wants me. Jesus told us not only to go out and heal spiritually and emotionally, but physically. And he did it himself, and I see that this is what World Vision is attempting to do.
You know, Marianne, when I look at the need, the great need over such a vast area, I wonder sometimes if God's hands are big enough for it all. But then he works through our hands, doesn't he? And hands like those of Atu Duferes and all of the others here. And he works through your hands, and he blesses those hands.
We ask you to join us, to use your hands to reach across the miles to provide food, medical aid, and hope. That cup of cool water that Jesus talked about.
Ethiopia. Awesome, unknown, untamed. A people who are the proud descendants of an ancient culture, rooted in history and tradition, living between the glory of the past and the present crisis of drought and hunger. Where is this country? Who are its people? Why do so many suffer? World Vision presents Ethiopia Report. Our children are dying. With special guests, Debbie Boone, Mike Connors, and Marilyn Hassett. And now your hosts, Carol Lawrence and Art Linkletter.
Thank you for joining us for this special hour, which will give you a unique insight into a country, a courageous people, and a crisis.
During the next 60 minutes, we're going to step into both the fascinating history and the present suffering in many parts of Ethiopia today.
For centuries, these cascading falls and the river beyond represented a mystery to the world. Men risked their lives and their fortunes to solve it. Then, in the late 18th century, the Scottish traveler James Bruce stood on this very spot in the highlands of Ethiopia and knew that he had discovered the headwaters of the Blue Nile, one of the two sources of the great Nile River itself. To the outsider, Ethiopia will always be a mystery, a mountain kingdom hidden from the world, and yet one of the oldest nations on earth, with a recorded history that goes back some 3,000 years.
People from southern Arabia began visiting here around 1000 BC, about the time Ethiopia's Queen of Sheba made a visit to King Solomon. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans traded here. They described the people as tall, noble, and courageous, people so courteous and hospitable that the Greek poet Homer called them the blameless race with whom the gods were dining.
It's that nobility, that rich tradition that flows in the veins of today's children of Ethiopia. It's important that you see them and understand them, for today, hundreds of thousands of them are in a death struggle with famine.
These conditions in many parts of Ethiopia today are the result of a continuing crushing poverty, together with the crisis of drought and civil unrest. In this one desert outpost in the Gondar region, World Vision's relief plane makes as many as 14 trips a day, airlifting food and supplies. 2 crews of Mission Aviation Fellowship pilots are kept busy in this life-saving effort. Here is suffering that is difficult to describe. It is an onslaught of hunger and disease unleashed against a people who are all too acquainted with hardship. This is a special occasion, a christening service. According to custom, the baby remains covered. The priest walks around the mother and child and begins to chant blessings upon the gathering. Scripture is read in the traditional manner from the Gospels. Now the priest takes the baby, who, like most infants on these occasions, doesn't quite appreciate how wonderful it all is. This is a very healthy child, a very fortunate child. I couldn't help but be happy for this mother because I had just seen many other young mothers in Ethiopia who know very little of this happiness. One of the tragedies of disaster in any country is that it inevitably shatters homes, families, and all sense of inner security. For many mothers in this World Vision clinic, drought, famine, and civil unrest have meant the loss of one or more children, and many times a husband. This has meant having to struggle for their very existence, with the resulting malnutrition and disease. The final result being children like this, Ethiopia's children of hunger.
Hello, I'm Edwin Newman. Recent news reports have begun to lift the curtain on perhaps the greatest human need crisis of our time. A silent plague of death is sweeping across vast areas of Africa. Drought and famine threaten the lives of 150 million people. The United Nations estimates that 20 million people are in danger of immediate starvation. At this moment, Africa is a continent in crisis. The crisis and the human heartache are the focus of the next 60 minutes.
Africa, continent in crisis. Presented by World Vision, with hosts Gary Collins and Marianne Mobley. Joining us for this important hour, Debbie Allen, LeVar Burton, Gordon Jump, and former NBC News correspondent Edwin Newman.
Right now, you have the power to reach out and help touch the life and future of one of those children. You can do it with a call and a gift of $16 a month. When you call, you'll become an Africa Lifeline partner. Each month, you'll receive a story and picture of a child that you're helping. You'll also receive this Africa Lifeline poster on which each picture can be placed. The time is so short for so many children. Don't wait with your $16 a month pledge. Pick up your phone and call.
For the people of Tet, every flight of this DC-6 means lives saved. Today, 150 million Africans are threatened by famine. 20 million face immediate starvation. Most of them are children. I will never forget the pathetic sight of little Nana searching in the ground for that last kernel of corn. But she represents so many other children who are hungry and sick and close to death.
Well, tomorrow I'm going to watch them load her up and take off again. And I'll get that feeling I got those years ago when I stood in the wheat field and watched those silver birds flying overhead. Only this time she's going to be a white bird. Yeah, a dove of peace, sort of. Bringing hope to thousands upon thousands of starving people. You'll excuse an old grease monkey getting poetic like that, but underneath these greasy overalls, I'm just as emotional as the next guy, and I get to feeling a real bond with those people out there who are counting on me to keep things going. And you know, when those say they're counting on you too. Now, don't let them down, okay? Keep them flying.
With the grace and power of an ocean wave, with the trust and joy of a child, with the beauty and hope of a summer's day, the family joins the ranks of those things in life that bring us closer to God and to each other. This is a celebration of that connection.
A haven from sadness and strife. The family is overlooking mistakes that others sometimes make, accepting them for what they are and learning to give and take. That's what the family is, receiving their love and then giving it back in kind. The family is deep understanding and helping each other to find fulfillment of the hopes and the dreams that make our lives worthwhile. Of all God's precious treasures, the wonders that are His, I'm sure He must be mostly proud of what a family is. God is what a family is.
World Vision presents Welcome to the Family. Starring Debbie Boone, her husband Gabri and their family. Gary Collins, his wife Marianne Mobley and their daughter Clancy. Lola Falana with Alexander Hamilton and the Voices of Inspiration. Rich Little and his daughter Bria. Barbara Mandrell, her husband Ken and their children Jamie and Matthew. And William Shatner.
We hope this gift we bring you helps to make your spirits rise, 'cause the family's coming over to your house
Good evening, I'm Gary Collins. You know, the moment after we arrive on this planet, we become a part of something greater than ourselves. We become a link in a very solid chain called family. Now, the number of links may vary, but one fact is inescapable. We are no longer alone and never will be again. And it's a comforting feeling to be a part of something like a family. It allows us to take certain risks, to venture down untraveled pathways, knowing there is a support group behind us to cheer us on to success or to be there to catch us when we fall. Tonight we're going to meet some wonderful people and some of their support groups, and we'll share with them some warm, private, and meaningful moments, moments that may be mirrored within our own family structures.
Presenting the Collins Family.
Ladies and gentlemen, your kind attention, please. We're here to entertain you with a show of expertise involving family relationships, the pitfalls, the pranks, the heartaches, the headaches, the rumbling and the ranks for your perusal and inspection, amusement and delight. We present our little exercise tonight. To begin, allow me to introduce the cast of characters. First, the mother, or mommy, or mom, rule maker, hurt healer, comforter, supporter, demander, commander, reprimander, understander, mom.
Next, the father or daddy or dad. Rule enforcer, talker, push over, cheerleader, irritator, aggravator, educator, liberator, dad. And last, and usually least, the daughter or sweetheart or sweetie. Rule breaker, earth shaker, moody, hyper energetic, highly prized, criticized, sensitized, patronized,